What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. So, first off, I want to say, it is great that all four officers have finally, finally um, been arrested and charged for the murder of George Floyd. So, congratulations to George Floyd, his family, and, everyone who is supporting the cause, you know. But in this particular video, um, I want to share an article with you that a YouTube user shared with me, and I just want to read it and go through it because I think it's really interesting, especially in this particular climate that we're in, to have this discussion. So the title of this article is "This is My Reality." Father's post explaining why he won't walk around his neighborhood alone goes viral. All right. So let's get into it. All right. So a California man has gone viral after revealing that he is quote unquote scared to death to walk in his neighborhood alone as a black man. Hmm. So right off, I'm like, okay, what type of neighborhood you're living in? All right. So Shola Richards, an author and keynote speaker, took to Facebook to share his fear of being perceived as a threat by white people simply because he is tall, athletic looking, and black. So I'm assuming that he lives in a majority white neighborhood. That's really interesting right there. Living in a majority white neighborhood, um, as a black man, and he also has a white wife and two biracial children, two daughters who are biracial, and a dog. All right, so 2.5 children. All right, so it goes on to say, twice a day, I walk my dog Ace around my neighborhood with one or both of my girls. Richard, a father of two, began. Quote unquote, I know that doesn't seem noteworthy, but here's something that I must admit. I would be scared to death to take these walks without my girls and dog. In fact, in the 4 years living in my house, I have never taken a walk around my neighborhood alone, and probably never will. Okay, there's a lot to discuss with all that. All right. One, okay, I've already done a video about black men using non-black women and biracial children to assimilate a while ago. All right, way before this article happened, I've been called that out as well. Black men use non-black adjacent women, aka light-skinned and biracial women, to assimilate as well. Okay, and this article is an example of that. Also, why would you live in a neighborhood and a community that makes you feel like this? That you're a threat simply because you are, tall, athletic looking, and black. Those aren't crimes. You know, usually those probably would be considered positives. Usually, like, oh, tall people are usually considered a positive thing, being tall, and athleticism is considered positive as well, you know. But why would you live in a neighborhood that wouldn't consider the blackness to be a positive thing? Or perhaps even just like, oh, well, whatever, you know, even that, you know. And also, shouldn't your neighbors know who you are by now? If you have been taking, you know, so many walks throughout your neighborhood the 4 years that you've been living there. And as well, you're like probably the token black dude in the neighborhood. Shouldn't your neighbors already know who you are at this point? You know? Should they still be feeling that you are a threat? I think they know that you have a dog and daughters and a wife, perhaps. You know? And speaking of his wife, does he ever take walks with his wife? You know? Because he didn't mention that in this article. And also, what does she think about all of this? What is her opinion about all of this? Is she sympathetic towards it? Does she even care? And I really think, especially in the climate that we're in now, people, both black men and black women, but especially I'm seeing more black men getting caught up in this, having non-black spouses and significant others and whatever. Like, do these people really give a fuck about what you be going through? Your black struggles, your black baggage. Do they really be caring? Do they be really trying to hold you down and get you through it? You know? And if they're not, then I think you need to reevaluate that relationship and you probably should leave. You know? But unfortunately, when it comes to some black men and some black women too, but especially some black men, some black men do suffer from King Kong syndrome, where it's like, y'all remember the movie King Kong? It's been remade many a time, and King Kong was obsessed with the white woman, and ultimately that led to his downfall and his demise. Even when he got caught, if he had just broke out and left versus chasing after some white woman or climbing a building with a white woman, he would have been safe probably. And I think that is a correlation with that. Some black men will go through so much with their non-black spouses, especially white women, and it's like, but why? But why? And as well, another important thing to talk about and to bring up is, what if the racists still call the cops or still attack when you're with your daughters? Then what? Then what'll happen? So I'll continue on reading this article. So Shola Richards clarified that although his statement may seem overdramatic to some or appear as though he's quote unquote playing the race card, many people won't see him as potentially dangerous if he's with his children. Some folks, white folks coming through, dude, you're totally playing a race card, dude. You can't do that, bro. Logan, this dude's totally playing a race card, bro. Brad, I told you, dude. The blackies always do that. They always play the race card when things don't go their way, bro. So, we already know who's coming through with that. All right. Is his wife saying he's playing a race card? A good question. And also, don't get it twisted, because I know some people gonna come through and be like, both can have their preferences. Stop policing a nigga. And again, I don't really give a fuck. Go with whoever you want to go with ultimately, right? It is a personal choice. All right. I ain't trying to police folks, but nevertheless, these questions are still valid, and these questions need to be examined, answered, whatever. And I think that's part of the pushback that some people may be having. Again, ultimately, it's you. You have a right to choose what you want to choose. But the article goes on to say, quote unquote, when I'm walking down the street holding my young daughter's hand and walking my sweet fluffy dog, I guess he ain't walking a pit bull. All right, Riley. I'm just a loving dad and a pet owner, taking a break from the joylessness of crisis homeschooling, he wrote. Okay. And I get what he's saying in a sense too, where it's like you can see, being seen as less of a threat because of the people who you are associated with, low key getting like a non-black cosign in a way. That is a thing, and it kind of just works sometimes with just men and women in general. Like if you were walking down the street and you seen a man by himself, you may be like, but if he's walking down the street with like, oh, his wife or girlfriend or whatever and kids, like, oh, okay, you may not be as on guard perhaps, right? So I get what he's saying, although I don't think he should be living in a neighborhood, residing, having a home in a neighborhood and community that would make you feel this way, right? Where you can't just, exist while black, live while being black, Is that a crime? Quote unquote. But without them by my side, almost instantly I morph into a threat in the eyes of some white folks. Well, I guess your wife didn't see you as a threat. So he said some. Or maybe, she saw the dollars or, whatever. And all that good stuff, right? But whatever. Instead of being a loving dad to two little girls, unfortunately, all that some people can see is a 6'2" athletically built black man in a cloth mask who is walking around in a place where he doesn't belong, even though I'm still the same guy who just wants to take a walk through his neighborhood. Okay, so he's coming at this point now where it's like he's addressing the white people and also doing it really carefully as well. I mean, he chose to live amongst them, or that was what him and his wife agreed to, or whatever, their business. But I do find that a bit weird because technically they on some multicultural shit, which is fine. We can all be on the tips that we want to be on. Pause. Well, we can all be on the agendas that we want to be on or whatever, right? And I think if you're in an interracial relationship, I do think that the multicultural agenda is more of the agenda for you versus the pro-black agenda, which people like to mix with multiculturalism, which further just confuses everything and everybody as well. But what I'm trying to say is, I'm glad that he more so is on multiculturalism versus being pro-black, coming through like, oh, I'm black and I'm proud, and not to say that he can't be black and proud while swirling until he hurls and whatnot, but I just find that can sometimes be a bit much, right? And it leads to a lot more questions. While the multiculturalism that he's on seems to be a bit more applicable for this situation, right? He's in an interracial relationship, and he has biracial children. So that would be more so multiculturalism. If he was in a intra-racial relationship with a fully black woman, or at least half black, I guess. I guess that's debatable, but that would be more so pro-blackness, in my opinion, right? And there's definitely debates that can be had about that, right? And as well, that sort of came up when it came to George Floyd as well, because of his white fiance, Courtney Ross. Whereas, some people, particularly some black women, were, maybe taken a bit aback by it. And I was like, you know, because some people will come through and be like, George Floyd was pro-black and we gotta support, George Floyd, right? And then some people are like, well, was he really pro-black? And again, the debate, right? So he goes on to say that it's equal parts exhausting and depressing to feel like I can't walk around outside alone for fear of being targeted. I don't think you should be living in a neighborhood where you fear that you would be targeted just because you're a black man. You ain't do nothing wrong. It ain't a crime to be born black, you know? And it's like, why would you put yourself in this situation? Again, I mentioned multiculturalism. Perhaps he and his wife should live in a more diverse neighborhood, where there's a mixture of people so that he wouldn't stick out like a sore thumb, right? I don't know whose idea was it to move to a majority white neighborhood like this, but maybe they should reconsider where they live. If um, Shola Richards is feeling as if he is being targeted, or as he's being judged negatively just because of being black, tall, and perhaps athletically built, you know. So that's why I say that I think sometimes, some of these dudes be suffering from King Kong syndrome, going through all this, and for what, you know. He also goes on to say, Richards continue by encouraging white and non-black allies to take action and help support the Black Lives Matter movement, and not reply to protesters by saying, quote unquote, all lives matter. So he might be trying to get into the pro-blackness now. He might try to, they always come back to black. They always come back to black. No matter what. We seen this shit right now playing out with George Floyd, all these black male celebrities, speaking out, and ain't, I don't see they non-white spouses speaking out, but I see them speaking out, and interesting. Although I do see black women on the front lines, black women in these protests, black women showing up and showing out, coming through, speaking truth to power on behalf of black men and black people in general. They black sons, they black daddies, they black granddaddies, they black husbands, baby daddies, goddamn shit. The black UPS man, the black FedEx man, the black Amazon Prime delivery guy. Shit. So he goes on to say, quote unquote, and I really think this article really low key is sort of like low key begging for white acceptance as well. So he goes on to say, quote unquote, having white privilege doesn't mean that your life isn't difficult. It simply means that the color of your skin isn't one of the things contributing to your life difficulties. And I can agree with that. Richards wrote, responding to Black Lives Matter by saying all lives matter is insensitive, tone deaf, and dumb. All lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter. And okay, I can agree with that as well. I find it, again, really odd that we're still having this conversation about what Black Lives Matter, the slogan, means at this point. Because Black Lives Matter has been around for a minute now, and I think it's been clarified many a time. And if we're saying this at this point, then I think we got to just start scratching folks off the list. We got to start, well, should have been doing that, but we got to start scratching folks off the list. Everyone ain't down for you like that. And he goes on to say, Richards urged white people to speak up and use their voice because, quote unquote, your voices matter to POC, people of color, people of color, now more than ever. And yeah, white people, especially your white spouse as well, Shola Richards, should be speaking up. You know, in fact, there probably should be a damn organization of non-black people who have black spouses who speak up on behalf of black people or at least black issues, especially in times like this. There should be some sort of damn organization. You know, white folks are good for making an organization about damn near anything. So they can't make an organization about this. Quote unquote, as for me, I'll continue to walk these streets holding my 8-year-old daughter's hand in hopes that she'll continue to keep her daddy safe from harm. He concluded, I know that sounds backwards, but that's the world that we're living in these days. The post, this post that Shola Richards did received more than 500,000 shares and more than 70,000 comments from people commending Richards for his powerful, poignant, and heartbreaking words. And he goes on to say that, quote unquote, I wrote this post out of complete exasperation. The recent news stories of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, Kristen Cooper, and George Floyd broke me emotionally. And where is your wife during all this? Is she holding you down? And like, is she, at least being supportive? Can you guys have racial conversations? I'm not trying to be shady. I'm just saying these are important questions that need to be asked, especially for these swirl world folks, because folks think, especially some of these black women who'll be on YouTube, be thinking that it's just, all peaches and cream in Swirltopia. And it's not necessarily like that. I mean, you can find you a good spot in Swirltopia, but sometimes sometimes it ain't all peaches and cream though. And he said that he felt emotionally broke by, the situations of police brutality, as well as the situation with Kristen Cooper as well. Thankfully, he didn't get caught up in that, and I feel like that, Amy Cooper, that white one who was doing all that noise, should probably be, well, she did lose her job, so she did lose something, but should probably still be getting dragged, But Christian Cooper himself, saying that, oh, I don't think she's racist, and, low-key, like, defending the chick now. And like, oh, she shouldn't receive death threats, Meanwhile, she was damn weaponizing the cops to come and get your ass. And what if they did? What if they did come through and guns blazing and take you out on some shit? That wasn't true. And there's a history of that, as I'm sure we all know, particularly white women, lying, telling half-truths, whatever, getting black men caught up, strung up, goddamn, got black men looking like strange fruit, right? But that's the thing too, where it's like a lot of the black men out here don't really want to have that conversation though. Where it's like, okay, why is this group of women being considered as potential love interests or whatever? Considering the history, right? And, I think ultimately what it comes down to is that I think black people, as well as black men, but black people and even just non-black people as well, I think they view racism as being more so a white male thing versus a white female thing. And considering that white men do lead the charge, they aren't putting their women on the front line to fight against black men. They wouldn't put their women on the front lines to go against the big black boogeyman. That I wouldn't expect that from them. But considering that white men, lead the charge so much, and uh, the history and all that stuff, you know, white men being so much behind it, I can understand that. But ultimately, we know that it's not just the white men; it's white women too. They just play a different role in it. See, if this was Blackistan, it would, if the white lands ran like Blackistan, then it would be we would probably be attributing racism to white women. But since it doesn't run like Blackistan, it runs like white lands, it's not like that, right? Just like in these police protests, as I said before, black women's public image is taking a hit. You may not see it right at this moment, but it's going to, once all this dies down, black women's image is being loud, angry, attitudinal, aggressive, masculine. That is going, isn't like all this protesting on the front lines and, coming at the cops and whatnot. It's not going to help those stereotypes. And black women still are going to have to deal with those stereotypes when it comes to competing for jobs in the workplace and uh, being in the dating market, right? As well as just living in society and how black women are viewed and treated when perhaps black women may need somebody to come to their rescue and, oh, well, that's a black woman. She'll handle it. It's a group of men attacking her. And also, like, you know, what happened with the case of that young black woman, well, young black girl in New York, I think maybe the Bronx or Brooklyn, who was jumped by like 15 black boys. What happened with that? How's that going? You know, since we're so concerned about, black people and, you know, the greater good, and having to support and things like that, how is that going? You know, I'm wondering. But let me get back to this article. It's about almost at the end. So, quote unquote, as a black man hearing about these stories over and over again, it felt like death by 1,000 paper cuts. It honestly felt so destroying. I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping well. And I was losing significant weight. Many of my very well-meaning white friends were unable to understand the depths of my grief. So I wanted to put my own experiences in paper, or in writing rather, in hopes that it would be useful to them and cathartic to me. Richard said that he has received hundreds of incredibly kind, supportive, and heartwarming messages from people around the world, many of whom thanked him for inspiring them to become quote unquote active allies and recognize the role that they have to play in fighting racism. Active allies. Can you really be an unactive ally? Is that really a thing? Like, oh, I'm not active though. I'm an ally, but I'm not active. Like, ally is a noun, but it's also a verb too. You gotta do it to be considered an ally. All right. So the article ends with this, quote unquote, I'm all about positive change, Richards added. And if this post played a small role in helping people to share more kindness, empathy, and love with their fellow humans, regardless of race, then I would be thrilled. See, I told you now he on some multicultural shit again, right? And again, that's fine. He can be on some multicultural shit. I really think that's what he should be on, considering his situation with his wife and biracial kids and all that stuff. But as I'm saying though, like, maybe he should just live in a multicultural setting. Maybe that could alleviate some of these issues, that he was speaking about in the article. So that's the end of the article. So I also want to go on to say some more. I didn't mean for this video to be this long, but in for a penny, in for a pound. I think that's the saying. But so one thing, how are we going to invest in black people and blackness when, you know, people don't really give a damn about blackness like that? Because I'm seeing that being kind of like thrown around too during all this, situation that's popping off right now. But I feel like people, much like the civil rights movement, are on their own agendas, low key, for the reason that they're participating in all this. We all don't have the same end goal in mind with this George Floyd situation. I just want to put that out. Like, we all don't have the same end goal in mind. You really think that these white folks who are participating really want to tear down the system of white supremacy? You know, do you really think that's it? I mean, I'm sure that there are some well-meaning, white allies in the mix. I'm sure that they are. But still, even them, you think they're really trying to, tear down a system of white supremacy so that we can, have fairness and an equal playing field and all that good stuff? That's a step down for them. That'll be a step up for us, but that's a step down for them. I don't know if they really want to do that, you know? So, and as well, I really think that a lot of white people are participating in this so that they can be on trend, so that they can not be seen as racist, so that they can calm down black people, so they don't continue to, riot and whatnot and all that stuff, and a lot of times when situations like this come up with, black people, black men as well, like, it seems like we only hear from some of these dudes as well as some of these women, but especially these dudes, because a lot of these dudes are coming through. We only hear from them when they get that nigga wake up call. If they didn't get that nigga wake up call, then we wouldn't be hearing from a lot of these niggas, especially these Hollywood niggas, right? And also, nothing goes viral coincidentally. Why do you think this went viral, right? Because we've seen many a times when, like, black people have been harmed or killed or mistreated or whatever by law enforcement. We've seen that before. There's plenty of video footage out there. Why this one, right? And George Floyd's death was a wake-up call for a lot of people. A Negro wake-up call for a lot of people. And also, as I mentioned before, please don't be fooled, black people. Right now, anti-racism is on trend. Or at least appearing anti-racist is on trend right now. Many people, white, black, and other, are just following the latest trend right now. Right? You've seen how people have gone at people who aren't on trend, who have pushed back against the trend right now, right? Whether it's Drew Brees, I'm not defending what he said, don't get it twisted, but I'm just saying, right? He changed up his tune though, because he want to be on trend now, and he don't want to get dragged and whatnot, right? I think people have come after Candace Owens for saying that we shouldn't be uplifting George as some martyr or patron saint or whatever, and to an extent I can agree with that, and that is a video in itself when it comes to what the black community goes hard for and what it doesn't, right? Tokyo Jess making a joke about George Floyd came after her. Trina saying that the rioters are animals came after her, right? So if you're not on trend and folks know that you're not on trend, but rather you're off trend and you're not, they're coming after you, coming after your ass, right? And again, I'm not necessarily defending those people, but I'm just saying, right? And really, when it comes down to it, Hollywood black men especially, and as well as just regular black men too, but especially Hollywood black men who do have platforms, should have been galvanized against police brutality. Industry dudes and athletes and whatnot, they should have been did this shit. This should have been happened. And also, Barack Obama needs to shut the fuck up, because he was in office for 8 years, 2 terms, and ain't do shit about police brutality. Don't speak up now. when you could have spoke up back then and did shit about it. You know, it was this type of shit was going on when Barack Obama was in office. You know, Trayvon Martin happened when Barack Obama was in office, as well as many others. You know, why now? You know, you coming after Donald Trump, and don't get it twisted, I ain't defending Donald Trump either, but I'm like, well, what about when you was in the Oval Office and you was empowered to do something or to pass laws or to, you know, use your platform or whatever, you know? So miss me with that. Again, also Michael Jordan want to speak up now too and talking about pledging $100 million to fight police brutality. You know, in the NFL, like fuck them too. Again, when the whole Colin Kaepernick police brutality protest and people were protesting peacefully, then that shit wasn't good enough. Like that shit was a threat, right? And again, they got rid of Colin Kaepernick ultimately because of money. They felt like they was going to lose money. At least I heard like 20% of their season ticket holders were not. They were going to lose because Colin Kaepernick was a part of the league. You know, now I think Colin Kaepernick did get some sort of settlement in regards to being blackballed from the NFL as well. But now these folks want to come through and talk like, oh, we were wrong. Yeah, we shouldn't have did that. We sorry. You know. Now, right? And I really think right now they're probably perhaps doing it because it's more so on trend right now. They, you know, if it was not on trend, they probably would just be silent about it because, you know, a lot of these places are speaking up about stuff like this. Walmart want to talk about racism. Come on. Walmart was caught up in some racism shit a while back. And they hired a black woman CEO as well to probably low-key help combat the racist shit that popped off. All right, you can Google that. So, like I said, don't be fooled by all this. You know, folks right now, it's just a trend. Don't get it twisted. And I just want to say a few more things. His fiance, George Floyd's fiance, Courtney Ross, she was at the funeral. So is she still an actress? Because I heard a lot of people coming through with that, especially some black women, which really goes to show you that black women, some will do the most outlandish, the most complex, the most spectacular mental gymnastics to cape for a dude that you don't even know. You know, that's a video in itself, right? And I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve to be advocated for just because he has a white spouse or something, but black women do be we're running with them alternative facts about, oh, that ain't his wife, or his fiance, that's an actress. His real fiance is like Shawanda Hill. And also I heard like his one of his baby mamas came out and spoke out too. You know, doing more than his white spouse. Again, see how this shit kind of circles back around, you know? All right. And also, come to find out, like George Floyd had like a lot of kids. I don't know how many kids he had, but he had quite a few kids. I thought he just had like one or two daughters, but apparently he has a bit more than that. Some older kids as well who he was estranged from, and I think he may have even been estranged from his younger kids as well. Right? But of course, that's to be ignored. You know, because let's be real, absentee fatherism in the black community is pretty standard at this point. It's pretty normalized. I was like, okay, yeah, so let's just blame it on, oh, the black woman couldn't keep a man. Oh, the black woman traded the black man in for the welfare check. Right? Which, like, okay, is every black woman on welfare who has children, who's a single mom or a divorced mom or whatever, are they on welfare? Because that's something that we need to talk about too. I don't really think every single one of them is even on welfare. All right. And even still, you can still be a part of your children's life. You may not be able to live inside the house, you know, but some of you don't even want to live inside of the house and contribute. That's another. I'm trying not to make this video too long or longer than it should be. But saying all that to say, we do sometimes as black people, sometimes some of us, a lot of us, enough of us, feel a need to identify with our bottom 10% for some reason. You know, we feel a need to identify with like the criminals or the absentee fathers, particularly, not the mothers, but the fathers. You know, identify with the dudes who, you know, were selling dope, robbing and thugging and stuff. For some reason, we feel a need to identify with them and to cape for them and to defend them, particularly when it's black men for some reason. Why? Why can't we just take out that trash? And it's like, well, it's a bigger issue than just that, you know? But I'll put it like this. If George Floyd was, let's say George Floyd was a black woman, I don't know if folks would be going this hard. If George Floyd was a homosexual black man, I don't think we'd be getting the same support. And he would be getting the same support from, especially from black men. They wouldn't want to be associated with that image. And, you know, black men have a right to feel that, you know, choose what image they want to represent them or not. But it's like, okay, George Floyd image probably wasn't the best image to go with, though. You know, that's the thing, right? You know, heck, if George Floyd was a black girl, we wouldn't be caping this hard. Maybe even a black boy, perhaps, but especially a black girl, right? Again, something to really think about here when it comes to, you know, who we support as a community and who we do not support as a community, right? So I think I mentioned all I have to say for this video. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Until the next video, adios and goodbye for now. And one more thing before I go, I don't want it to be misconstrued as if I'm not supportive of George Floyd getting justice for the way that he died, and as well as other people who have been victims of police brutality. Like, don't get it twisted, but I'm saying, like, these conversations, they still need to be had at one point or another, you know. But I feel like we just trying to sidestep them and sweeping them under the rug and things like that, you know. You know, for the greater good, you know, it's not just about George Floyd and all that. It's true, but, you know, if we really want to come through and have a awesome, well-functioning community, then we kind of have to address this at one point. So, thanks for watching. Adios and goodbye for now. Also, one more thing. Yeah, sorry. But y'all remember when Terry Crews came through talking about he was, you know, like groped or sexually violated or whatever by that white Hollywood executive. You see how black men was not coming through and supporting Terry Crews, and they actually was making fun of him and criticizing him, right? It wasn't talking about no greater good shit, right? Because that wasn't a good image. That wasn't a good look, right? But, you know, we'll accept George Floyd, and we can, you know, yeah, a criminal record, and absentee father, and he was changing his life. He was going to turn his life around. He was trying to get himself together. He just stumbled a few times. Goddamn. Give a nigga a chance. Let a nigga redeem himself. And then, you know, black women coming through, you know, you know, I gotta support the black king, you know. We all have trials and tribulations. And that is true, but still, like, let me just end this video. So thanks for watching, y'all. Peace.